Picture this for a second. You think you're about to watch a simple story about a woman starting over, taking a quiet job in a rich family's home, maybe dealing with a few awkward moments and some mild drama along the way. But what if that fresh start slowly turns into a suffocating web of secrets, manipulation, and danger, where every smile hides a threat, every kindness has a price, and every door that looks open might actually be locked from the outside? Stick around, because this story doesn't just peel back layers, it rips them apart, revealing a chilling game of survival where no one is exactly who they seem to be. Millie arrives at the luxurious Winchester residence in New York, hopeful yet visibly tense as she prepares to interview for a live-in housemaid position. The grand property feels overwhelming, but she keeps her composure when she meets Nina Winchester, the elegant yet slightly intimidating lady of the house. Nina scans through Millie's resume, immediately noting that Millie's college education makes her far too qualified for basic housekeeping work. Millie calmly insists that she simply enjoys working for families that treat her well. Nina quickly shifts the conversation toward practical matters, explaining that Millie's responsibilities will include maintaining the house and assisting with Nina's 7-year-old daughter, Cece. As Nina gives Millie a tour of the sprawling home, she proudly mentions that her husband Andrew, who works in tech, designed most of the interior. They pass a sleek entertainment room filled with drinks and a massive television where Andrew spends much of his time, followed by a second, rarely used living room that feels almost decorative in its perfection. During the tour, Millie awkwardly questions whether a nanny is really necessary given how pristine everything already looks. Nina lowers her voice and confesses that she is pregnant but hasn't told Andrew yet, wanting to wait until she is certain before sharing the news. Millie politely congratulates her and promises to keep the secret. Nina then shows her Cece's room, highlighting a miniature replica of the house that Andrew built himself. Finally, Nina leads Millie to her own room, tucked away in a secluded part of the house. She encourages Millie to decorate it however she likes, noting that it is soundproof and allows for privacy. At the end of the visit, Nina hands Millie money for gas and promises to call her when she decides. Despite the polite farewell, Millie privately assumes she will never hear from Nina again, knowing her entire resume is fabricated. With nowhere else to go, she cleans up in a public restroom before returning to her car, where she spends the night. The next morning, however, Nina unexpectedly calls to offer her the job, leaving Millie overwhelmed with gratitude and relief. When Millie arrives later that day, the front gate doesn't open immediately, and she awkwardly asks a nearby worker for help before the gate suddenly unlocks on its own. Inside, she finds the house in total chaos, a shocking contrast to its earlier perfection. Nina greets her casually, explaining she needs Millie to clean everything while she works on an upcoming PTA speech. Millie throws herself into the task, scrubbing and organizing until the house returns to its spotless state. Shortly afterward, Andrew arrives home with Cece. Nina introduces Millie as their new live-in maid, and although Andrew initially seems uncertain, he eventually welcomes her politely. Once settled, Millie explores her room and notices a small refrigerator stocked with water bottles. She soon realizes that her bedroom door cannot be locked from the inside and that her window doesn't open at all. Nina later enters with dinner, casually explaining that the window is faulty and promising to have it repaired. When Millie asks for a key to her room, Nina laughs it off, mentioning that the room used to be Andrew's storage space and that she'll provide a key later. Nina then gifts Millie a brand new phone connected to the household credit card, allowing her to purchase groceries and necessities. The following morning begins chaotically when Millie oversleeps and rushes downstairs to find Nina frantically throwing items around the living room. Nina accuses her of discarding her missing PTA speech. Andrew intervenes, calming his wife and offering to take Cece to school while Nina rewrites her speech. While cleaning up, Andrew confides to Millie that he doesn't understand Nina's emotional behavior lately and offers to help with the mess, but Millie insists she can handle it alone. Outside, while taking out trash, Millie encounters Enzo, the groundskeeper, who seems curious about her presence, but abruptly leaves upon noticing Nina nearby. Later, while cleaning the master bedroom bathroom, Millie finds a tablet, only to be startled by Nina appearing behind her. Nina opens up about feeling out of place among other PTA mothers, before instructing Millie to prepare dinner. That evening, while Nina attends a meeting, Millie cooks for Andrew and Cece. Cece oddly refuses to drink juice from a clean glass, claiming it is dirty despite Millie's explanation. Andrew invites Millie to eat with them, but she politely declines and retreats to her room, where she scrolls through Andrew's social media before dozing off and dreaming about him nearly kissing her. In the morning, Nina finally gives Millie the key to her room and casually asks how dinner went with Andrew and Cece. She admits Andrew isn't fond of her cooking, but eats it without complaint. A few days later, Nina demands that Millie drive Cece to ballet on her day off, blaming Millie for missing a hair appointment earlier. Millie refuses, citing an important meeting, and Andrew steps in to take Cece himself. That meeting turns out to be with Millie's parole officer, who warns her that losing her job could send her back to prison to complete her remaining sentence. After the meeting, Millie leaves shaken, fully aware that this job is her only lifeline. She returns to the house more cautious than ever, determined not to upset Nina again. Nina, however, seems to shift moods constantly. One moment overly friendly, the next cold and suspicious. She begins giving Millie contradictory instructions, criticizing her for things she was previously praised for. Millie starts to sense that Nina may be deliberately testing her, pushing boundaries while maintaining a polished, innocent image in front of Andrew. Strange rules soon begin to emerge around the house. Nina insists certain doors remain locked, certain rooms cleaned in very specific ways, and certain conversations never be repeated. Millie notices that Nina often rearranges rooms after she's cleaned them, later accusing Millie of doing a poor job. Andrew occasionally apologizes on Nina's behalf, explaining that stress has been taking a toll on her, but his concern feels oddly restrained, as if he's used to walking on eggshells. Millie's isolation grows as Nina subtly undermines her position. Nina hints to neighbors and PTA members that Millie is unreliable, planting seeds of doubt about her character. At the same time, Nina confides deeply personal fears to Millie, blurring professional boundaries and creating emotional whiplash. Millie struggles to understand whether Nina truly sees her as an ally or as someone to control. The constant emotional pressure begins to affect Millie's sleep and focus. Cece's behavior also becomes increasingly unsettling. She speaks in rehearsed phrases and seems anxious whenever Nina is nearby. Small details like Cece flinching at raised voices or nervously watching Nina's reactions start to stand out to Millie. One afternoon, Cece quietly tells Millie she doesn't like when her mother locks people away, then quickly claims she was joking. The comment lingers, troubling Millie more than she wants to admit. Enzo reappears during Millie's chores outside and begins speaking more openly. He hints that previous housemaids didn't last long and that Nina has a history of driving them away. When Millie presses for details, Enzo warns her to be careful and to keep records of everything. His concern feels genuine, but it also raises new questions about what truly goes on inside the house when no one is watching. As days pass, Millie begins to notice inconsistencies in Nina's stories and unexplained gaps in the household routine. Items go missing and later reappear, always in ways that implicate Millie. Andrew remains distant yet watchful, offering help only when Nina isn't around. Millie realizes she is trapped in a delicate balance, one mistake away from losing everything, while slowly uncovering signs that this household is far more dangerous than it appears on the surface. Soon after, Nina calls and instructs Millie to pick Cece up from ballet, but when she arrives, a PTA mother named Patrice informs her that Cece already has a scheduled playdate. When Millie insists Nina told her otherwise, Patrice calls Nina, who denies it entirely. Back at the house, Nina scolds Millie for embarrassing her and introduces her to Andrew's mother, Evelyn. That night, unable to sleep, Millie goes downstairs to watch television, where Andrew joins her. They bond over a game show, and Andrew opens up about family dynamics, mentioning rumors about Nina's tragic childhood fire and her parents' mysterious deaths. Nina unexpectedly walks in and, after Andrew leaves, fires Millie, before reluctantly giving her another chance with a strict warning to stay away from Andrew. At a PTA gathering, Millie overhears the mothers gossiping cruelly about their nannies. Nina announces she is searching for one and casually pretends she and Andrew are trying to conceive, contradicting her earlier pregnancy claim. After Nina leaves the room, the mothers gossip about her troubled past, including a stay in a psychiatric ward. That night, Millie journals her suspicion that Nina is unstable. Soon after, Nina bursts in and asks Millie to watch Cece during a weekend doctor's visit with Andrew. While alone in the house, Millie discovers Nina's medication for psychosis and secretly calls her friend Lexi for potential job leads, admitting she wants to leave. Cece overhears, but Millie reassures her, and the two share a moment of bonding until Nina returns home screaming. Andrew later reveals Nina suffers from premature ovarian insufficiency and confesses Cece isn't his biological daughter, though he deeply wants children. That night, Millie hears violent yelling and witnesses Nina holding a bloody glass shard before Andrew calms her and shuts the door. The next morning, Nina apologizes for lying about her pregnancy and offers Millie her clothes as a peace gesture. She also asks Millie to book Broadway tickets and a hotel as a romantic surprise for Andrew, promising Millie a day off. Later, a PTA mother warns Millie that Nina once attempted to drown Cece and later tried suicide, claiming Andrew saved them both. When Millie questions Enzo about the family, Nina interrupts angrily and accuses Millie of purchasing Broadway tickets without permission, forcing the cost onto her paycheck until Andrew intervenes and reassures her. Eventually, Nina and Cece leave for art camp, and Andrew invites Millie to use the Broadway tickets with him instead. They attend the show together, sharing emotional conversations about their desires for family and happiness. At the hotel, overwhelmed by angry messages from Nina, Millie breaks down and Andrew comforts her, leading to them sleeping together. When they return home the next day, Nina pretends ignorance about their affair but casually reveals Millie's prison past to Andrew. While grocery shopping, Millie realizes Nina likely suspects everything after learning employer-provided phones often track employees. Soon after, Nina reports Millie's car stolen, leading to her arrest until Andrew bails her out. Back home, Nina confronts them after finding evidence of the Broadway trip, fires Millie, and demands repayment for stolen clothes. Andrew explosively kicks Nina out and convinces Millie to stay with him, promising stability. Life initially feels peaceful, but subtle warning signs appear. Andrew fires Enzo after Millie claims he was watching her. When Millie accidentally breaks Evelyn's cherished china, Andrew's demeanor shifts, becoming cold and controlling. Later, after an intimate moment, Millie wakes to find herself locked inside her room. The story then reveals Nina's perspective. Rather than being unstable, she had been trapped in an abusive marriage with Andrew for years. Her childhood trauma, failed academic dreams, and manipulative relationship with Andrew paint a tragic history. Andrew had emotionally and physically controlled her, even staging incidents to make her appear dangerous and institutionalizing her. Realizing Andrew's need to dominate vulnerable women, Nina carefully selected Millie as a replacement and escape strategy, especially after learning of Millie's violent past. Back in the present, Andrew forces Millie to carve 21 cuts into her stomach as punishment for breaking his family china. While enduring the torture, Millie remembers killing a wealthy predator years ago to protect her roommate, leading to her imprisonment and estrangement from her family. After completing the cuts and collapsing, she later attacks Andrew using a knife hidden by Nina in the mini-fridge, locking him inside and discovering hidden cameras monitoring her. Millie then forces Andrew to pull out his own tooth by threatening to destroy his precious china collection. She leaves him trapped, but Nina soon returns to rescue her. During the chaos, Andrew ambushes Nina, but Millie intervenes and pushes him down the stairs. Nina stages the scene as an accidental fall, and despite police suspicion, the case is ultimately dismissed. Following Andrew's funeral, Evelyn mourns while subtly criticizing Nina. Later, Nina secretly meets Millie, thanks her, and gives her money to start fresh. The story ends with Millie attending another housemaid interview at a luxurious mansion where she learns Nina recommended her. When warned that the husband in the new household is difficult, Millie calmly smiles, suggesting she might be far more prepared for such challenges than anyone realizes.